Okay, so this is my note card. Did you know that 1 acre of mangrove forest can store about 1,450 pounds of carbon per year? A study performed by the University of Maryland estimated that the global storage of carbon by mangrove forests per year sits at around 75 billion pounds, or about 34 million metric tons. Now, if you're like most people, then the odds are that you don't really know a whole lot about mangroves, since the significance of these trees isn't exactly something people talk about for fun. My name is Jessica, and today I'm going to be discussing just why it is so important for coastline communities to preserve their native mangrove forests. Mangroves themselves are a very special kind of tree. Unlike most terrestrial plants, these trees have adapted to thrive in salty habitats, where other types of greenery are more easily choked out. That aspect is due in part to their salt pores, which are these little pores in their leaves where they can filter out any excess salt. Even their seeds, which are called propagulls, are adapted to their harsh aquatic environment. These have a weighted end so that when they mature enough to fall, they plunge straight into the sand right side up. Now, let's be forgiving and pretend that this stick model we made is scientifically accurate. Specifically for red mangroves, they have a whole latticework of prop roots that allow them to stay anchored in the sand and keep the main trunk above the waterline. Now, unfortunately, despite how hardy these trees are against natural threats, surges in deforestation are destroying these essential environments, which usually occurs due to overharvesting of natural resources and clearing out of area for oil rigs. Even when deforestation is kept contained to a specific area, the mangroves that have been left untouched can still be smothered by the sediment flowing downstream from cleared out areas. According to Panda.org, more than 35% of the world's mangroves have already been destroyed. And in North and South America, these areas are actually being cleared out faster than tropical rainforests in the Amazon. In general, there are 3 different types of mangroves, although red mangroves are the best known. To start out with, we have white mangroves, which grow the farthest inland due to their low salt tolerance. And these really have no outstanding features, they just kind of look like any other shrub or bush. Then there are the black mangroves, which grow much closer to shore, but not so close that they're submerged. These have their own specialized roots called pneumatophores. This is a mouthful, for getting air when the tide rolls in. I guess to explain this a little better, if you've ever seen one of those old cartoons where the character jumps in the water and pulls that straw out of nowhere so that they can breathe, that's basically what pneumatophores are to a black mangrove tree. And lastly, we have red mangroves, which grow exclusively in the water thanks to their high salt tolerance. Out of all these, the red mangroves hold the most importance, given their unique properties. I mentioned prop roots earlier, but those are actually what allow them to create a natural barrier against the rough winds and waves produced by tropical storms, much in the same way that coral reefs do. As shown in this scale model produced by Little River Research and Design, the simulated waves have virtually no effect against the shoreline behind the trees, but rapidly eat away at the half that is unprotected. And beyond just this, those roots form an intricate system of gaps and passageways for fish to lay their eggs in during spawning season, where they'll be protected from predators even after they've hatched and begun growing, which fishing communities in particular can thank for keeping their economy afloat during those times. Besides just fish, though, there's actually a lot of other wildlife whose well-being depends on mangrove forests. These forests are home to several species that can't live anywhere else since they've adapted to rely on mangroves. For example, there's animals like the mangrove finch and the proboscis monkey, which, fun fact, is the world's only known aquatic monkey. And yeah, they are very cute looking, but that bloated stomach you see in the picture is actually due to their evolved digestive tract that allows them to break down the mangrove leaves they eat, which no other animal can do. Lastly, among their many benefits to mankind, mangroves also help dispose of the ocean's excess carbons. As the trees grow, they absorb carbons and use them to develop their branches and leaves. Once those leaves are shed, or as the trees themselves fall naturally, they take that carbon with them and gradually get buried over time, storing those carbons in the seafloor as blue carbon. According to Ocean EDU, despite only taking up 2% of the world's marine environments, they actually account for up to 10 to 15% of carbon burial worldwide. In conclusion, as things currently stand, the future is not looking promising for mangrove forests. They're being cleared out faster and faster every year, and local communities have a lot to lose when these trees disappear. Not only are these areas being left vulnerable to storm and erosion, but the fishing industry, upon which many of their economies rely, take a heavy hit when their source of income is unable to reproduce efficiently. This continues to happen because not enough people are aware of how significant these forests are. It is my hope that as more attention is brought to the matter, better coastal land use plans will be devised to help maintain limits for sustainable logging and harvesting within these fragile environments.